Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today I'm going to show you how to replace the radiator in this Mustang GT. It's going to be the same process for all 94 through 04 Ford Mustangs. The automatics do have some different transmission cooler lines that go in the side that won't be on this car since this is a manual transmission, but you would just unscrew those, and I can put a link in the video description on my truck that had that if you want to see that. Now, the particular radiator that I'm using actually has ports for that, which were not on the stock one, so you can see the arrows pointing to those here. And so those are for cooler lines, and in this case, you don't even have to add anything to it. They are kind of like a compression line, so until you screw something into them, they don't work. So just verify that that's happening with yours if you happen to have those. Otherwise, if you went in and gave them the proper year, make, model, drivetrain, automatic, manual information, then they may not have those holes in them at all. And on that note, if you have an automatic transmission car, make sure you do have these so that the automatic transmission lines can hook up to them for cooling. Okay, so for our first step, we're going to go ahead and put the car in the air. And so the best way I like to do this is to lift with the jack a little farther back and then put the jack stand towards the front. We're going to go ahead and leave the jack there as well for extra safety. And next you're going to take off the radiator cap so that the system can vent properly as we drain it. Then coming in on the driver's side, you're going to find this big lower radiator hose. So we're going to remove this clamp by squeezing it with pliers, and you're just going to make sure it goes into a 5-gallon bucket. So move the clamp backwards, and then on these hoses, sometimes you got to twist them back and forth a little bit, and then when you pop it off, try to get it to go straight into that 5-gallon bucket. So just let that drain into there, and next we're going to go back up top. I'm going to take our 10mm socket here and remove these 3 points here on the expansion tank, and then we'll just be able to get it out of our way. And so it has 2 more hoses on it that we're going to need to disconnect. So you'll follow this top hose here around the side, and with a pair of pliers, you'll just walk that clamp off and pop the hose right off of there. And then there's one more on the bottom. And so at the bottom, you're going to find another one here that has another hose clamp on it. So we'll just get some pliers on that and just remove. Sometimes you have to come around from the back like this. But anyway, just remove that last hose there, and you'll be able to set the entire expansion tank out of the way. Next, we're going to undo this plug, and it has a little tab on the top and the bottom. So I've already put a screwdriver on the bottom, and so here it is on the top. We're just going to put this in here to lift up, and with both of them lifting up, you can pull this plug apart. Okay, so that just slid out like that. Next, take an 8mm wrench, and we're going to disconnect this one here, and there's one on the opposite side over here that holds the fan in place. Okay, this one's a little tricky with all these AC lines in there, so I used an extension with that 8mm socket. And this wiring harness is connected to the fan. Right there, there's just one little clip to it, so we're just going to put some needle nose pliers behind it and pop it off. Okay, so we just pried that out with some needle nose pliers, just coming off that harness. Okay, and now the fan will lift straight out. You just might have to wiggle it to get it past a few things. Alright, just lifted the fan out and set it aside. Okay, next we're going to remove this trim piece here, and it's just these button tabs here, and there's 2 of them down here. Now, if it's factory, they have a little screw in the middle of them, so you just unscrew it, take the screw out first, and then it'll pop out. These are aftermarket ones, so basically just get a screwdriver under it and pop it off, or needle nose pliers pop them off. Just like that. Just remove all those. Okay, then you can just remove this tray out of the way and set it aside. Next, remove the hose clamp for this radiator hose. And it might be one of the pinch ones, or like this, it's just an aftermarket worm one. Go ahead and move that and remove the hose. Okay, now we're removing the radiator clamps here. There's one on each side, and they're 8mm. So we'll remove those. Okay, and these just come off. There's a little grommet on the top. So just remove this on each side. Okay, we're going to remove the battery. It makes it a little bit easier. So these are stock, they're 8mm. We're going to go ahead and remove the negative first. Then we're going to go ahead and remove the positive, which I've already loosened, of course. Okay, and then there's a battery tie down. That was another 8mm. So we went ahead and just loosened this to get the wedge out. Has coolant in it. And now we're going to lift the battery out. Okay, now we'll remove the tray since it's really easy to do and it'll help the new radiator slide right past it. So it's got some 8mm bolts in here, one on each side. Okay, now the radiator can just pull straight up and out. And it's still going to leak a little bit. So you want to be careful of that, don't let it spill, and you might want to have some cardboard down for it. Okay, now just drop the new unit down in. It's just going to sit right back down into those two holes. And if you watch the story on this car that I have of getting it back and how it had gone through a flood, I used to own the car, got it back. That's a pretty interesting story, so it might be a little run down, but the poor guy's been through a lot, and we still love it. So with the battery and tray, everything out of the way there, we're going to be able to put the radiator straight down in here without banging anything up. Okay, just drop the new one in there. Having that battery and tray out of the way really makes a difference for clearance. Just have to move this line here out of the way too for the power steering. Just work your way through, but it'll drop right in. Okay, I'm going to reinstall our radiator clamps here. Sit down in place on each side and put the 8mm bolt back in. Okay, just move that clamp back onto its spot. Okay, make sure that lower radiator hose is all the way on there. Just try to move the clamp back to right where it was if you can. Okay, now we're going to put the fan back in, and it just sits down inside these two little hooks right there. There's one on that side and one on that side. And we just have the two screws to put in. Okay, so we just tightened that radiator support bolt there, and we used our extension for that. And we tightened down this one as well, so now the radiator is back installed, and we'll just plug it in now, right here where the connector came apart. Okay, so that's plugged back in. Okay, put your cover back in place with the pop-in screws. Okay, so we just put our hose back onto here, clamped that clamp and slid it up to put it back in place. Now we're just putting our expansion tank back on these here. And in the back, but now we're gonna just lift that one back in there too. Okay, we'll tighten all three of those down. Okay, so we just reconnected this line right here and move that hose clamp forward. Now we're going to fill the cooling system, and this is very important so that you don't get any air pockets. And so what we're going to do is we undid this upper radiator hose here. We put the radiator hose back on there, and we're going to pour it in here first, just like this, and that's going to go directly into the radiator, because if you try to only fill this, it will not fill the whole system. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that, but eventually as we fill this, it will start to come out here, and at that point, when you have it full here and full there, you're just going to pop that back on and then tighten it down. Okay, so we're using this as our high point, so as we're pouring this in, you'll notice it filled the expansion tank for us, and it should be coming out here pretty soon. In fact, it looks like it's almost level there. Okay, so we put our cap on there to trap it as we continue to fill this up.
You can see now it's coming out here. So this is full and that one's full. We're just going to hurry and push this back on.
Okay, next reinstall your battery tray with the 2 bolts there.
Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and let it idle. We're going to turn it to max heat, which is this one. Okay. And that's going to allow the coolant to go through the heater core. Okay, so just start squeezing this, you'll feel the pressure go through as it works some air out. You can have the cap off for the first minute or so, but then you'll put the cap back on and pressurize it. See the bubbles. Okay, so now we're running it. We're pinching on this, forcing any air bubbles out. You're going to let it run, let the water pump do a lot of the work. And you can force some coolant down in it, and the pressure of that should push it through the system a little more. But you want it to get warm. Okay, go ahead and remove the jack stand, lower the car back down. Okay, we're getting closer to operating temperature here. Everything's looking really good. And so we're going to drive around the block a few times and keep checking that coolant level.
So